Hi, I'm Lisa and welcome to my channel, The Southern Seamstress, where I like to share everything that I've been sewing lately. I hope everyone's been doing well since my last video. I've been staying busy, but I've managed to get a few things made this spring that I'd like to share with you in today's video. The first item I'd like to share is this top that I made earlier in the spring when we still had some cooler temperatures and I was still wearing tops with long sleeves in them. This top is New Look's pattern N6644. I've had this pattern for a couple years now, but this is the first time that I've made it. The pattern contains two different garments that you can make. One is this V-neck pullover, and it also includes a pattern for some really cute cargo pants made for woven fabrics. The top comes in sizes 8 to 20, which is a bust size of 31.5 to 42 inches. The top I made is a size 10. I did shorten the sleeves by 1.5 inches, but I didn't shorten the torso at all. When I looked at the pictures of the model on the front of the pattern, it looked like the pullover just came to the top of her hips, and I wanted my pullover to come just a little bit longer. So I decided not to shorten it, and I'm only 5'2". So if you're taller and you'd like the pullover to come more mid-hip or longer, then you'll need to add some inches to the torso. This pullover calls for stretch knits, and I used a rayon rib knit that I had purchased from Sewing Studios a couple of years ago. I really like the feel and the texture of this knit. It's rather lightweight, so even though I made a long sleeve pullover, it was still perfect for early spring. This pattern can be made with a regular sewing machine, a serger, or a combination. Now I made mine using a combination of both my serger and my regular sewing machine. I did see this pattern featured on YouTube showing a full tutorial of someone making it on the Sew Happy channel, and they used just a regular sewing machine for the whole thing. I'll try to link their video in the description below. That way, if you're interested in making the pattern, you'll have the video to reference in case there's any steps in the sewing process that you might want clarified. Now, I think this was the first knit top that I've made with a V-neck. And I was a little worried at first that maybe it wouldn't lay nice and flat, but I really had no problems with it. The neckband is in two pieces, and when you sew those two pieces together, it kind of forms this V. And then all you have to do is reinforce on your top this V area, and then you're going to clip down to where you stitched. And then you can just match up the seam of the neckband where you clipped it on the top pattern. So I was really pleased how the neckband came out, and it lays perfectly flat and there's no pucker right here if you do clip it all the way to where you stitched it. This top has set-in sleeves and then a band at the bottom, which is fairly loose, and then the bottom of the sleeves are just turned up. So like I said, I was really pleased how it turned out. So if you're looking for an easy knit pullover pattern to make, I would definitely recommend this one, and I do plan to make this again in the future. So after I finished that pullover, I shifted gears and started thinking about what tops I wanted to make that would be cool for this summer. When Style Art had their patterns on sale last, I decided to purchase the Evie knit tank. I really didn't have any tank patterns, and I thought this one would be really cool to wear during the summer months. I made my Eevee top in a size 8, and I think I did shorten it 1.5 inches in the torso when I was cutting it out. I made the top from some bamboo jersey that I had purchased recently from Fabric Depot. Now the pattern does call for a knit, and it actually says a slinky knit. So I knew it needed to be lightweight and flow well. So of all the knits in my stash, I thought the bamboo knit would work the best. This pattern was really quick to tape together and to cut out. There's only a front piece, a back piece, and then the armband and the neckband. When I first cut out the front and back pieces, I thought this top was going to be really blousy and big because the pieces just looked big. But when I got it made, it's actually a fairly fitted tank, especially across the upper part, but it has a nice relaxed flow below the bust. This pattern has a high-low hem. After I got the pattern cut out and was making the top, I decided that even though I still wanted a little bit of a high-low hem, I didn't want the back to be quite as long as it was. So I actually went back and cut this very bottom part of the back off an inch. So there is still, you know, quite a difference between the front edge and then the back edge down here. But if I hadn't cut it off, it would have been an even more exaggerated high-low. This pattern is a quick sew, and it's one that you can use your serger on or just your regular sew machine, just like the first top I showed you. Basically, once you sew your shoulder seams and your side seams, you just have to put the binding around the neck and then the armholes. There was only a couple of things that I really didn't like about the top, and it wasn't really the top, it was the fabric. Now this fabric, because it's kind of a slinker type fabric, I think, I have to be careful when I'm wearing this not to let this seam kind of roll out. But once you kind of tuck the seam in, it stays pretty well. Now I would have top stitched this all the way around, except I felt like this fabric didn't look good top stitched. But it seemed like the neckband in the back wanted to roll out more than the front. So I did go ahead and I did like a little knit zigzag stitch, except that I lengthened it. And I just did it from this shoulder seam around here. So it's not really going to show with my hair covering it up. And it doesn't look that bad. It's just I don't think it would have looked good on the front. And then when I'm wearing it, I'll just have to make sure the seams are tucked under on this little binding. So for the bottom hem, I didn't use the cover stitch machine. I just serged the edge, and then I just turned up the hem and used kind of a long top stitch, just a regular straight stitch. Now I was using a needle for knits, but I felt like it just didn't look that great. So I removed those stitches and I went back and used the little narrow zigzag knit stitch that's on my machine, but I lengthened it. So it just made this zigzag a little more relaxed and didn't pucker the fabric as much. So I think that looks okay like this. Now this fabric, I did have to be careful about ironing it. I kind of used a pressing cloth because when I didn't, I felt like it was leaving like little shiny marks around this area where the seams were. So this is another top that I definitely think is beginner friendly in that you can use either type of machine making it. I think it's going to be really cool to wear during the summer, and I do plan to make this top again. So the last top I want to share is the one that I'm wearing today, and it is the Solar top by Itch to Stitch Patterns. Now this pattern also has a dress version that looks just like this, but a dress length. The fabric I used to make this top is another one from Fabric Depot. It's just a little cotton spandex jersey. It's fairly lightweight. This pattern calls for light to medium weight stretch knits. I would say this is a little bit on the lighter side, and I think it works well with this top since it isn't real thick. It just drapes better. When you look at the one on the picture of the pattern, I think hers might be a little bit thicker because it just doesn't seem to have as much drape as this one does. When I looked in the measurements, I was kind of in between a size 2 and a size 4, so I decided to go with a size 4 because I definitely wanted this top to be a little bit relaxed. I've made several itch to stitch patterns in the past, and I felt like the knit tops were pretty fitted, so I definitely wanted to go up and not down a size. The itch to stitch patterns, I believe, are drafted for a height of 5'6", and in the past I've usually taken about an inch off of the patterns that I've made from itch to stitch. I'm 5'2", but after I made some of those patterns, I kind of wished that I had just kept the full length and not shortened them. During the winter months, I made 2 itch to stitch jackets, and for those I didn't shorten at all, and I liked the length that they came out. So I'll stand up and show you the full length of this top. So you'll see it's not overly long. It just comes over my waistband, really a high hip, and that's without shortening or lengthening it. So if you're taller than I am, or you just like a longer top, then you might want to add a few inches to the torso. Now this is the first knit top that I've made that had any sort of gathering in it, I believe. Now how you do this gathering, it's fairly simple. There's not a casing or anything. It calls for this clear elastic tape. This is the same sort of clear elastic that you would use to reinforce like shoulder seams on t-shirts. Now the pattern says you can use a 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch elastic. Now mine is the wider. Now when I measured it, it was kind of in between a 3/8 and a 4/8. So this is what mine looks like. And on the pattern piece, there's a line showing the placement of the elastic, and you'll just mark that on the front of your piece of fabric and on the back with some type of marker that's heat soluble or water soluble. So to sew your elastic on, you're going to use like the zigzag knit stitch, and she tells you the length and the width, because it's I think she's got it lengthened to like a 3 and then maybe a 3 millimeter wide. So a little bit longer and wider than what you would do for a seam. And she has you pin each end to the fabric and then pin the middle and then sew with the top facing up, stretching your fabric. When I tried to do it this way and I got done and looked at where my stitching line was on my elastic, it wasn't down the middle, it was like on the edge and it was about to come off in the middle. So I ripped that out, and what I did was just sew it from the underside, the wrong side, so I could actually see the elastic while I was sewing it. And I think that made it so much easier because you could see the placement of where your stitching was going. And with it all gathered, you can't even really see your stitches, so you can't tell if you stitched it this side up or this side down. So when I did it that way, it was really easy. Now this top also has a V-neck band, but it was a little bit different. You didn't seam this piece here first. On this neckband, the seam is in the back, like a lot of neckbands, but you still do the little reinforcement right here and you clip it. So then it makes this top go straight, horizontal. And then when you sew on your band, you don't have your band doubled. You just sew one edge of it and then turn it to the inside where it covers the seam. And then you're going to stitch in the ditch here. And then it says you can just clip the edge of the fabric close to the stitching and leave it, you know, a raw edge, because it's not going to ravel. Now I had another pattern that did the same thing, and I didn't really like just the raw edge. Even though you can't see the raw edge, it doesn't ravel. I just didn't like the way it looked. So what I did, I serged the edge that was not in the seam but that's going to be on the inside, and then I folded over just like it said, but I didn't trim it. So now I have, if you can see, a serged edge right here. I think it just makes it look more finished. Now I will say that I had to go really slow when I was stitching in the ditch on the sleeves and on the neck, because anytime I got any speed, it was wanting to, the needle was wanting to like jump up on the binding part or get too low. So I had to go really slow just to try to keep that really straight. But other than that, it was fine. So for the hem, I did it just like I did the tank. I serged the raw edge of the bottom. So I turned up the hem about 3/4 of an inch, I think. And then I zigzagged with the lengthened zigzag stitch about 5/8 of an inch from the edge. So I'm really happy with this top. I like that it's a little different from most knit tops, most t-shirts, because it's got this pretty gathering right here, and then it's got the V-neck. So I do feel like I will make this top again in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing about my last sewing projects. Let me know in the comments if you've made any of these tops, or if you think you'd like to make any of these tops in the future. For my future plans, I already have a couple of other little knit tops in mind that I want to make, but I also want to make some non-clothing items for some future videos, because I know I have a lot of viewers that sew but don't necessarily sew clothing items. So I've got several videos coming up in the future that have sewing projects that aren't clothes. I've got several tote bag patterns picked out and some person bag patterns picked out that I want to get made up so that I can show you, you know, the finished item and not just showing you a picture of the pattern. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. This will probably be my only video for May, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the month, and I will see you in June.